A very warm welcome to this Open Doors presentation at MISIS, University of Science and Technology. My name is Alan Moore and I am Director of the International Office here in MISIS. Now, MISIS is located right in the center of Moscow, which of course is the capital of the Russian Federation. To my left is Red Square and the Kremlin, and to my right is Gorky Park and the Moscow River. However, before we start today's presentation, I am delighted to introduce to you our first prorector, who is going to give an introduction to today's event, Dr. Sergey Salikhov.
Добрый день, дорогие участники вебинара. Если вы подключились к этому мероприятию, значит, вас интересует ваше профессиональное будущее. Вы стремитесь к получению знаний и использованию всех возможностей, которые перед вами открываются. Олимпиада Open Doors может стать вашим ключом к получению самого современного и передового образования в одном из ведущих технологических университетов России, НИТУ МИСИС. Наш университет является признанным лидером в таких областях, как материаловедение и нанотехнологии, металлургия, горное дело, информационные технологии и экономика, что подтверждается высокими позициями в международных и национальных рейтингах. Университет науки и технологий МИСИС формирует творческую интернациональную университетскую среду. Более четверти от общего количества обучающихся являются иностранными студентами. Каждый 10-й среди профессорско-преподавательского и научно-исследовательского состава иностранец. Для желающих изучать русский язык у нас создан Центр русского языка. Университет МИСИС стремится создать оптимальные условия для того, чтобы иностранные студенты с комфортом адаптировались к новой среде и приступили к учебному процессу. Для иностранных студентов у нас работает Управление международной академической мобильности, Клуб интернациональной дружбы и Международный студенческий совет. Для подготовки исследователей и специалистов будущего создана вся необходимая инфраструктура, лаборатории и научные центры, возглавляемые выдающимися учеными России и мира. При этом наши студенты не только получают самые передовые знания, но и ведут насыщенную и активную внеучебную жизнь, занимаясь творчеством, спортом и волонтерством. Университет гордится своим кампусом, в котором созданы самые комфортабельные условия для проживания. Дом коммуны признан лучшим общежитием России. В университете реализуется 9 англоязычных магистерских программ по приоритетным направлениям: материаловедению, квантовым технологиям, информационным технологиям, солнечной энергетике, коммуникации и международным отношениям, лингвистике. Удобное расположение в самом центре Москвы открывает для наших студентов возможность изучать и познавать этот прекрасный город, богатейшее культурное наследие. Я уверен, что студенческие годы в университете МИСИС станут одним из самых ярких периодов в вашей жизни, и вы найдете здесь много друзей, единомышленников и наставников. Добро пожаловать в университет МИСИС.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Salikhov. And now we are kicking off with the rest of our presentation today. And I am delighted to welcome onto stage with me the manager and coordinator and expert for the Open Doors Olympiad here in MISIS, Dr. Elena Lee. Elena, you're very welcome today. And can you just tell us, first of all, how important is it that students understand that this Open Doors will actually build their career?
Thank you, Alan. I think that this project will be very important for our potential students because this is the instrument to build their career here in Russia, to have very high quality education. And this project, Open Doors, is created by Global Universities Association, and it's supported by Ministry of Education and Science of Russian Federation, and it's held since 2017. So this year it will be the 6th time, and every students from all over the world can early enroll and continue their education here in one of the leading universities in Russia.
Of course, it's for master's and PhD students, correct?
Yes, they can choose master's or PhD program according to their education in their native country. If they finished bachelor, so they can continue to master program here. And if they have master program already, they can continue PhD here in Moscow or another city of the Russia.
Of course, we want them here in MISIS.
Yes.
So that's the most important thing. What advantages are there to this Olympiad, this program, than say other ones that have been offered?
First of all, this is completely free and remote. So all you need is your computer with internet and your knowledge. And using this equipment, you can do all stages of this Olympiad and come here.
So you've mentioned stages in this Olympiad. What are the stages and how many are there?
The amount of stages is depending from your previous education. So if you want to go to our master program, you will have 2 stages. The first one is filling your application and portfolio, and the second will be in a proctored form to solve some tasks. And if you want to go to our postgraduate program, you will have the 3rd stage, and this is the interview with your potential supervisors.
So for PhD, you basically then have an interview as well
Yes,
to test.
sure.
In terms of portfolio, what goes into a portfolio, for example?
First of all, it's your motivation letter. It's very important because then jury is reading your motivation letter. They understand what you want from your education, what you want from your next professional goals, and how much you want to come here. So the first of all is motivation letter. After that, your diploma, previous, and all your achievements, all your wins, or everything that you have. You should fill in
As much as possible,
yes,
basically.
sure.
In question of that, because you said the motivational letter, of course, does it have to be in Russian?
No, in the beginning, every participant chooses the language in which he will participate in this Olympiad. It can be Russian or English.
So one of the two. So the
Yes,
motivation
one.
letter can be in English and submitted. Okay.
Yes.
Does the student need to speak Russian? Because the program is in Russian, correct?
No, we propose both in Russian or in English programs.
So English language masters, for example, like we have here.
Yes,
Okay.
we have a lot of interesting master programs in English here in MISIS.
Okay, excellent. In terms of do students have to pay anything to take part? Does it cost anything?
No, it's fully free for all participants.
If someone, say, for example, finishes with, let's say, a bachelor's in economics, can they then, for example, go into, we have here, an English language master's in PR and communications?
Yes.
Can they apply for that?
Yes.
Okay,
We don't look at the previous education, so you can change.
Okay. So basically, they can slightly change their profile.
Yes.
Okay, that's fair. In terms of living, we will discuss a little bit later on with other guests that we have. Is there a place to live here near MISIS?
Sure. Our student will have a place in our dormitory, and all our residence halls are there comfortable, and all your way from dormitory to university will be about 25-30 minutes.
By metro, of course, most of the time, yeah.
Sure.
So, because we were right beside, just so you know, we're right here beside the metro, Oktyabrskaya, which is on the Central Circle line. So basically, you get on here and you connect to all the railway stations, for example. There's also access to 2 stops away, of course, is Kievsky, and you can get access to the Vnukovo airport. So everything is close at hand. Elena, just before we move on to our first guest, in terms of, in your experience, what do students really need to do well? What mistakes do they make?
First of all, they should write the program of the chosen profile, because in the website we have every information they need. Program demo tasks, they're important to try to solve these demo tasks. And if you have a leak in some kind of education, you can, for a few months, try to finish some course, online course, and you will get knowledge.
So basically, to
extra
try
knowledge.
it. Okay, so try it before you buy
Yes,
it.
because
and-
the first stage is very long, from September to December, so you have time to prepare to the second stage.
Okay, super. Okay. Now, of course, what we want to do is to make sure that all of you listening and watching today, especially watching today, that you understand what life is like here as well. So to do that, we've got 3 guests coming in. The first person we're going to speak with now, she is from Mongolia. She came in on a different scholarship, but she's been with us now already a number of years. She, of course, is studying in Russian language. And she's also the vice president of our International Students Council, who basically take care of all international students coming in. And of course, they also help the international students adapt to life here in Russia, especially. So I am delighted to, and I'm going to mess up her name, but she'll kill me for that afterwards. Ayun Tuguldur Unenku. Okay, you're very welcome. Ayuka, we also know her as.
Yeah. Good day, everyone. Thank you, Alan, for introducing me. You can call me Oyuka. I am, as Alan said, Vice President of ISC. ISC is an International Students Council that was established in December 2020 and started its work in January 2021. Basically, what we do in ISC is that we help international students, and not only international and Russian students, help communicating with each other, adapting in Russia, gaining some knowledge, experience, and make friends with each other.
In terms of events, of course, there's an annual calendar. So from September, for example, till June, there are events every single week. How many are there per week, and what are those events like?
There are at least 3 events that in 1 week. The first one is language clubs in Russian, Spanish, and English. The second one is a sport event, Gaelic sports. If you don't know what it is, it's an Irish football. And the third event is that we go wander in Moscow. So
Now, that sounds strange, but what you really mean is like you help people get to know Moscow and help to feel the city, correct?
We help them to discover different
sites to see. Yeah, different sites
sceneries
places,
and different sides of Moscow.
Okay, and in terms of there's around how many, between 400 or so students involved?
Yes, right at the moment, in the morning I saw, and there were 450 students that are in our group. Most of them are international students, and probably 20 or 30% are Russian students.
Ayuka, now you came in on a different program and you're studying, of course, a bachelor's. First of all, why did you want to come to MISIS, and what do you think is important for students to know about here? Why is it such a good university?
First of all, I'm studying nanotechnology here in MISIS, and when I chose my university, it was the most innovative university, in my opinion, which had new equipment, new rooms. The professors were very professional, and they really help us to get that knowledge. Why I chose MISIS is because it's right in the center of Moscow. They provide us living apartments, dormitories, and also the design of this university was so good.
That is true, and it is downtown as well. So, and again, with the dormitories, they're located right next to metro stations, and from those metro stations, and also with buses as well, trams, you can get to anywhere in the city, and of course anywhere in Russia in double quick time. Ayuka, before we finish up on the question with you, in terms of students who are going to come in, what 3 things would you tell every student to do before they come?
I'd advise for our newcomers, for our international students, to be prepared for Russian weather. That's the most important thing.
Well, that's true, though.
Russian weather, first of all. Second of all, you may not know Russian language, but be sure that people here are ready to help you to learn the language. But maybe learn the basic words like hello, goodbye, thank you, and stuff.
And how much does this cost? Like, ask how much does this cost?
Yes, and and that too. Third of all, I think you need to prepare all your documents here, because when you are already in Moscow in university, you may panic and forget your stuff somewhere. So in that case, you need to prepare your documents, your backup documents, and copies of those documents.
Okay, 3 great tips to make life an awful lot easier here as well. And again, with the weather, I mean, and you can testify to it that it is cold in winter, but you can survive it. If I'm from Ireland, and if I can survive it, anyone can survive it. Not only in winter as well, yeah, summer is extremely hot as well, but it's also very, very nice. There's no better city to be in the world, well, apart from Dublin, than Moscow in the summertime. And the first of our 2 students I'd like to welcome on the stage today he came through the Open Doors program, and I want to ask him just how he got involved and how he's finding it so far. So, Emmanuel Chukuma, I pronounced your name correctly.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, I hope I did.
Okay.
Emmanuel, tell us, what course are you studying, and why did you choose the Open Doors?
Okay, so I'm Emmanuel again. I'm studying advanced material science here at the University of Science and Technology, MISIS. And I basically chose MISIS because I think it's one of the foremost universities or institutions for material science here in Russia. And basically, I also wanted to I wanted adventure, I wanted to learn a new language and all of that, and that really made sense as to why I chose MISIS to study advanced material science here.
How are you finding it so far? It's your second year, so how are you finding life in Moscow? First of all, life in Moscow, that's important, of course, and then your studies.
Oh, okay. So life in Moscow has been interesting. The people here are really nice. They want to help even when it's not convenient for them. And it's been interesting, especially with my studies. There's really great equipment, great guidance as to what you need to do. The material science education here is pretty top-notch. And also, Moscow is a very interesting city. There are very beautiful sights to see at any time of the year, really. And so that's it's been quite interesting and quite fun. And I've also started to be part of the international student community, and I'm really looking forward to more exciting things from them. And the school is quite supportive because right now we're trying to like create a new club on leadership and problem solving also, and there's been really much support, to take that on from the international student community, and I think that's quite interesting also.
Tell me one really good thing about Moscow and one really not good thing about Moscow. You can start with the not good thing first.
I think the not good thing is the cold. I really do not like the cold. I come from a country that is an average of 30 degrees centigrade, and so it's like taking me from somewhere else and putting me in the Arctic or something, So it's pretty. It can be pretty,
Now wait, is that the good thing or the bad thing?
No, that's the only bad thing that,
Okay,
that I think that's on the top of my list in terms of yeah. And then in terms of good thing, I think it's the people. The people are pretty nice, and also the education is pretty interesting also, and it's quite interesting to be here. It's quite interesting to feel a different perspective to education here in terms of like the program I'm studying and the field which I am currently studying at and studying in rather, and that's pretty interesting for me. That's like one of my topmost good things.
Why did you choose MISIS?
Okay, I chose MISIS simply because it was the most interesting university that I saw that was offering material science, and it was very broad. It was offering material science across different topics, advanced material science, nanotechnology, solar materials, and I just thought it was interesting, really, to have. And then I did some research. I saw that it was one of the foremost universities for material science, and that was basically what I was coming to do. And it was a no-brainer to come here to study material science, really, and that's why I chose it.
One short question, Emmanuel. What can you say about the level of tasks of the second stage of the Olympiad? Were they difficult for you?
I think that the level of the tasks were challenging, to be fair, and that is pretty much what it's supposed to be, because they want to basically test your ability to take on tasks related to your subject. So, but in the end, I think that you should try to give both sides your best. Work on your portfolio so that you are able to have strong weightings on that, and also in terms of the tasks, also try to study for them. The scholarship starts from September to December for the first stage, and then there's some break also from the second stage between the end of the first stage to the second stage. They also try to put some focus areas on where you should study for your subject-focused exams. So try to study those topics in your spare time, and I think you should be able to do sufficiently enough to score the minimum requirements to get in.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Emmanuel. So thank you for being with us today. Elena, a question on that. In terms of we were talking about the mistakes the students make when they're in the application process. Where do students really need to kind of improve on? Because we said a bit like the portfolio and said, well, what are interesting for you as an expert? What tasks do you want to see in a portfolio, or things in the portfolio?
Motivation letter should be not very short. So you should write about your experience and make it interesting to the experts. So also some of our participants, when they upload their diplomas, forget to translate it to English or Russian if they are not in these two languages. And this is a big mistake, because experts cannot read this document and put it 0 points. For this.
So basically,
yes.
So it's important to have it either in Russian or in English,
Yes.
no matter what. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it does need to be a legal translation or just a translation?
It's better to have a legal translation.
Okay.
Yes, because if they not, we can have some
Doubts.
Yes.
Okay, that's fair enough. Okay, we're delighted to welcome up our second Open Doors winner here with us today in MISIS. And, this is something I will come back to Dr. Elena with this in a moment, because he, as well as studying, had also worked as well. So, Tosin Akintobe, if you grab your microphone, you're very welcome. And tell us, what course are you're second year, but what course are you studying, and why did you choose it?
All right, my name is Tosin. Currently, I'm studying innovative software system and design in MISIS. And it's an interesting course to be studying in MISIS, because I've been able to learn more. I happen to come from a background which is science. I studied physics in my bachelor's. So switching a career or a study into programming was quite challenging. But I've been able to adapt well and learn more.
But you worked as well as a professional in IT as well for a while, didn't you?
Yes, I did. Prior before coming to study in Russia, MISIS, I was actually working in one of the big firms doing support in software, Business Central, and it was one of the major push for me to really coming to or wanting to learn programming. We were basically, it was a different field for me, and I really loved it.
And this is why, from actually work experience, you decided to choose innovative software technology.
Yes, it was a push on what I was seeing from work, which made me to change a field differently.
Why MISIS?
Yeah, I do get this a lot. So why Mrs.? Mrs., I can tell you, if I'm to pick again, I will choose Mrs. because while checking through the universities, I stumbled upon Mrs. And I fell in love with the university, the building, and I'm one of this person that I like to do my due diligence by researching. So I stumbled upon this video on YouTube, and there was someone speaking, talking about the university. Then I think it was you and Svetlana. And now I was intrigued. I was like the first British, let's say, person speaking English.
I'll just say like English speaker. Yeah, that's
So
okay.
I was like, okay, I need to be here. Then the course itself was amazing. So yeah, Mrs. number one.
Look, I'm delighted to hear that, and not so delighted to hear that you're calling me British, but that's okay. I'll let you away with that because I like you. Tosin, you've been involved, of course, with the International Student Council. How much of a help has that been to kind of finding your feet in Moscow and in Russia?
Well, it's been amazing, intriguing. I can say I never felt like an outsider. I was the first time I came into Russia, Mrs. I was really helped by someone in International Student Council. It was like the right direction, where to go, who to talk to, where to get the right document. So I was getting the proper information. I wasn't left out on any information.
That's very important, of course, because
Yes.
we heard with Emmanuel said that, from the weather alone, it can kind of knock you out of shape a little bit. It can make you feel. I'm just I have more questions for you, but Elena, in terms of with Tosin, do you find many of the applicants or the winners of the Olympiad, they're changing career directions or changing direction completely? Because I did ask you about, if I study economics, can I now study in MISIS in English for the English language masters for teaching? So do many students change their direction?
I think that among winners and prize winners, there are not very much people who changed their education very
drastically.
Yes,
Yeah.
because in this Olympiad we have a lot of participants. It's about 80,000 participants.
80,000 from around the world, so
Yes.
you have big competition.
Yes, so it's very big competition, and of course, if you don't have experience in this field of knowledge, you'll be in the
Lower rank.
yes, lower rate. If we have guys from the with the previous education in this field, so it's very comparative. So
Okay, so it's tough. So then what would, for example, if someone like Tosin, because I'll ask him what he did, but what would a student have to do or to prove in order to, if they're changing, like Tosin did, from physics into IT, what would they have to include in their portfolio or their motivation letter?
they should include their online course certificates. If they have publications, articles, for example, they are very highly evaluated by experts. Work experience also is very high evaluated. So if you want to change your study, your knowledge field, so you should prepare before this Olympiad.
Okay, that's fair enough. Tosin, from applying to when you were notified that you had the place, how long did it take?
It was some waiting period. I would say right from the portfolio stage, where we had to submit our documents. Just like she mentioned, experiences, certifications, work experience, and also from some form of awards. It took 3 months for the portfolio. Then the exam was quite challenging, but yeah.
So 3 months, okay. Before we sort of start to wrap up, just to ask you, I did ask Emmanuel the best and not best things about living here. What would be your best thing about studying in MISIS and your best thing about living in Russia?
Coming from a very hot temperate region where it is always hot, I get to experience cold at the extreme level. I can say I really like it because, well, I've been exposed to heat all my life, and seeing cold or seeing, watching the movie Home Alone and seeing snow for the very first time and touching it, it was like I was a child playing with snow for the very first time. So it was really wonderful, and I can't really forget the first time I stepped into Russia here, 1st of December. It was really cold, and I really like it here. And the people are really wonderful. I can tell you the way things are and the way things are portrayed outside there, it's actually quite different inside. And I really get to experience it firsthand, and it's actually mind-blowing, if I can use that word. In MISIS, I can say the education here is quite top-notch. I mean, the professors are quite understanding. The education is what I've, as a student, coming from a different educational background, here it's relaxing. The professors are quite understanding. They want to impact you rather than just read the lines. And this is a process to actually really go. So it's studying in MISIS, yeah, it's one good thing.
Your favorite food here?
Well, I can't really pinpoint to one food, but I've been trying a lot of food. I had the opportunity to, during summer, I went to a dacha. I mean, I guess I'll be the first Black person to actually go to a dacha. So it was really amazing. And I guess Bosch, I really love it. And Plimni, they're actually quite a lot. So I've just been trying a lot of meals, and I really love it.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Okay, thank you very much, Tosin, for that. You could just, before I finish up here with Elena, in terms of cost of living, is Moscow an expensive place to live? Because, of course, for example, the dormitories are roughly costing in US dollars around $60 to $70 per month. But how expensive would it be, for example, to get a hamburger?
Well, I think it's $2 to $3 to get a hamburger or just a lunch in the university cafeterias, in canteens. Also, to get a grocery for a month, it would cost you around $60 to $70. And as you say, the accommodation will cost you around $20 per month. I'm just doing maths in my head. In rubles, it will be up to 500 rubles. If you can convert it to USD, you can, yeah.
500, 5,000?
5,000, 500, 500, 500.
Okay. Are you, because on a different scholarship, so that's where. So stick with my figures. My figures are more correct.
Here, I'm sorry.
And also with transport as well is very cheap.
Yes, the transport is cheap. The metro costs you up to 400 rubles.
For a month?
For a month.
Yeah. So basically you have one ticket when you're a student, you're a full-time student, you get a ticket and you can travel on buses, metro, the trams, and also then there's the special trains that go around, cut across Moscow and around Moscow as well, and it's all for the same price. It's around about $10 per month. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Elena, just finishing up now on that, we heard the two of our champions who came in here as winners of the Olympiad. How many students have come to MISIS during the around 5 years of the Olympiad?
We don't have a lot of students in the beginning of this Olympiad, but when we start to participate very actively, so this year we have 29 students from this Olympiad. It's not bad result.
That's very
I
good.
think, yes. And we try to, in this year, to get more
Okay.
students and PhD students also by this Olympiad.
So students who finish your masters or are finishing your masters, then that's the time to start to take part. And what's the cutoff date? What are the dates they need to apply by?
The first stage will be ended on 10th of December. So you have not so...
A month.
Yes. So if you are still not in this Olympiad, you should hurry up
Okay.
to fill in
Okay.
all application and all portfolio.
And do you think that if students really want to progress, because we spoke about career development and so on, students have a chance to go on work practice as well, don't they?
Yes, of course, they can take a part in some projects in our labs with their scientific supervisors. So if you are active students, if you have good knowledge, you can start your work here in MISIS.
Excellent. Okay. And that final word, Alina, if I was a student, not from Britain, but if I was a student who wanted to apply, what would be the most important thing? What one thing do you think that I should definitely apply for MISIS?
I think that the best thing about MISIS is that we connect theory with practice during education. So it's a very good preparatory thing to your future professional life. Not only theory, but practice too.
Thank you very much, Irina. And on that note, we'll end off this part of our session today. We've given you information and some actual living statements from our active students and, of course, from our active professor. So I'm Alan Moore, the Director of the International Office of the University of Science and Technology, MISIS. I say thank you very much. So stay with us, come back and ask us your questions because myself and Dr. Lee will be here to answer them.